Hey guys, this is Jboy from the Jboy Show. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's a free way to make podcasts. It's unbelievable. It's how I started. Number one, like I said, it's free. Number two, it gives you creative tools to be able to add to your podcast, whether it be background music and all type of stuff. Three, they can get it on Spotify, Apple. You can get paid with sponsorships just by using ads, very similar to this one. So, download the free Anchor app, guys. It's unbelievable. You'll love it. And at the end of the day, it can get you started. All right. See you soon. Yeah, that's right. Welcome to this Thursday edition of the Jboy Show. Today, we are super excited to welcome former Auburn running back Brad Lester. Brad had a distinguished Auburn career, finishing with 1,689 rushing yards, 19 touchdowns, and 4.6 yards per carry. We also love having former players on the show, and we're excited to get Brad's perspective. Also, we started streaming content on YouTube, and we need subscribers. So if you guys like the show and want even more content, type in the Jboy Show on the YouTube search bar and please subscribe. We'll now be going live at least once a week to be able to engage with you guys. Thanks for listening, and here is Jboy and Brad Lester.
Okay, I think it's better.
We are joined by Brad Lester. Brad, I appreciate you joining us, man. Officially Anchor friends. That's a good deal. Makes everything easier. First off, like I said, I appreciate you joining us and really kind of tell us about where you're at in life right now and how everything's going for you.
Right now, this has actually been the busiest I've been. With everything going on with the coronavirus, a lot of the NFL players, they're back in Atlanta. Usually they'll be at their facilities training. College players, they're usually at their facilities training now.
Yeah.
But with everything going on, I just took it as a time to, work and help people out and keep them ready for the season.
Awesome, man. Awesome. It's good to hear you're doing well. Well, I want to go ahead and I want to start with your playing days first before we kind of move on to where everything is right now. Give me your best Auburn memory on the field and give me your best Auburn memory off the field, if you don't mind.
I can give you my first, that I can say on here, my best on the field was probably seeing Tim Tebow cry after we beat him.
That's a good one. That's up there.
They were undefeated. We had just that week before, we were number 2 in the country, and we had lost to Arkansas I think it was like an 11 a.m. game.
Yep, I remember that.
I mean, it was horrible. And I saw that. I didn't even know that we played Florida the next week until after the game. So I looked at who we had next, and I was like, oh, yeah. I said, let's get payback.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. So that's the game where Trey Smith blocked the punt, correct?
Yep. And I tackled him after he scored. I mean, that was probably the most fun, ever. I'll say, college, high school, at any level that I ever had was that night. I mean, just the stadium, the fans, and, the competition was the best you're going to find.
Yeah. Now, can you explain it? And I know it's because I've seen it and I've been a part of it, but can you kind of explain to our audience, and I know it's hard to put into words, what that feeling is like running out of that tunnel on game day with, basically 100,000 people out there, cheering you on?
It's funny. I actually was just talking to someone about that about 10, 15 minutes ago. The biggest thing for me before games, it's kind of weird where the locker room sits. We're kind of underneath the student section. So before the game starts and when the plane comes out and, everything is going on, we hear everything that's going on. So it gets really loud. You hear like a lot of people stomping. So I always tell myself, I'm cool with the noise, but when I walk out the stadium, just don't look up. Just like block everything out. And it's almost like you're zoned in for an hour and 2 hours and like nothing's there.
It's a totally different experience. And I always laugh because I always try and explain to people how the communication is so hard on the field. You really don't think about that in the stands. But I remember when we were playing Tennessee and you couldn't hear the guy next to you, but so loud that the holes in the side of the helmets were whistling. So really kind of talk to just how crazy it is trying to communicate.
Well, it's funny. A lot of people don't even notice, at least the way we used to do it. If the quarterback changed to a certain play, I just have to know what he was going to change to. If I go the wrong way, then I'm kind of screwed.
Yeah.
Just because we can't hear. So if he's changing the play, he's going to lean forward and tell the line, hey, check, changing to this, that, and that. But I'm so far behind him, he doesn't really have time to turn around and communicate with me, and he can't hear me. I can't hear him anyway.
Yeah.
So I had to just know what he's changing to.
Yeah.
We actually had one situation where he changed Brandon Cox. He changed to one play, and in my head I was thinking he was going to go another play. So he ran 32 zone, and I went 33 zone. it's just you really, and that's why I tell athletes now, it's like you're it's just like you're in class. You got to study. Like you should know everything the defense is going to do.
Yeah.
You got to know just as much as a quarterback knows. I mean, you really have to sit down and take the time to, learn the game.
Yeah, and I think some people kind of on the outside looking in don't really understand how in-depth schematics actually is, especially at that high of a level. Not only knowing the checks, but understanding what's in front of you, depending on what you see from the front, whether it's a 7-man box, 6-man box, 5-man box. Now, I kind of want to curtail that. You brought up Brandon Cox. And personally, he was one of my favorite quarterbacks. What do you think? Because he wasn't the best athlete on the field. He didn't have the strongest arm out of any quarterback in the SEC. What made Brandon Cox and you guys successful?
Brandon, I'll just first off say that's one of the best guys I know. Just, his work ethic. And, I mean, let's just be honest. He wasn't the best. I'm going to say not the best, but he wasn't the most athletic quarterback.
Yeah, he wasn't. He wasn't.
He was a lefty, which when they throw the ball, it comes out a little weird.
It's weird. It's like left-footed punters.
Yeah,
it just spins weird.
But one of the hardest workers, like one of the most humble people you'll meet. Like you'll see him in the street and never know that he's a football player. That's just how good of a person he is. Quiet, but now on the field, vocal leader. Real good guy. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, he's still top 10 in passing in Auburn.
I believe so.
But no, he was a good one. And yeah, he didn't get a lot of credit. I remember, times where we had some fans that booed him one game, and I was like, man, just keep your head up. Just ignore him. But he's one of those guys that you fight for him.
100%. I totally agree. Now, kind of sticking with personnel that you played with, who would you say was your favorite offensive lineman to run behind?
I'm gonna have to go with Troy Reddick.
Really? Okay. Why? What made him?
He's probably the most physical and aggressive person I know. You want your lineman to be physical, so
yeah.
now technique wise and just really knowing the game wise, I'm probably people gonna be surprised about it, but Jason Bosley, he was a walk on, but he knew where to be at all times, and his technique was phenomenal. Then also talent wise overall, I mean, obviously Marcus McNeil.
Yeah.
But I only got him for 1 year.
Yeah.
But yeah, Troy definitely. I mean, he was extremely physical. I mean, he's blocking after the whistle.
Yeah. He's one of those crazy guys, the guys that eats his whole plate and then walks around the lunchroom trying to find half the field.
Coach Borges might get mad at me for this, but there's been certain plays on like 3rd and 2 where we're running the ball to one side of the ball, and I look at Brandon like, hey, check opposite.
Yeah.
let's go to Troy's side.
Hey, that's a real thing, though, because players know. And in the heat of the moment, players know.
Oh, yeah. And, and that was the relationship that me and Coach Borges had. He was always like, hey, if you see something, you change it. He said, but if you screw up, I'm cussing you out.
Yeah, it's funny. The coach I actually, the last school I was at up in Montana, he's actually real tight with Al Borges and had really nothing but great things to say about him. And,
awesome guy.
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest. I never understood the change when there was a coaching change made going into that last year. That was going to my senior year. A lot of people don't notice. I actually tried to declare to leave school once I found out that he wasn't coming back, and
really,
they basically talked me into coming back for a senior year. That I mean, things just happened. I mean, it is what it is. I don't point fingers. I didn't give my best performance or best effort just because I wasn't open to the idea of a new offense at the time. So. But that was rough, because Al Borges was, I mean, not just a good coach, but almost like a father figure.
Yeah, and it was crazy. I was actually talking about this on a radio show yesterday, and the question posed to me was, as a coach, how do you handle not being hands-on or being able to be there with the players? And what I said was, and I think they were kind of caught off guard, was it's not just the learning what to do and the schematics of it and the walkthroughs, but actually being able to see you guys. I used to love sitting in my office and when players, always hang out at the facility in between classes, they just come in the office and you actually talk about life and stuff outside of football. And really that's how you build, in my opinion, a trust where if I'm on the practice field and I'm coaching and I get on you and, I'm getting after you, just like I'm sure they got after you and they praised you when they were supposed to. But I feel like that builds a rapport with the player and the coach that yields results on the practice field. What's kind of your your thoughts behind the relationship behind the coach and player.
I didn't understand it until I actually got into it myself. I'll be honest, that was one of the biggest, I think, complications I had when I was at Auburn. I don't really talk much when, something's going on. I'm not going to tell you.
Yeah.
Like, I know when I had my daughter, he didn't know. My running back coach didn't know until about 2 days before.
That's crazy.
And that was one of the biggest things that I had to adjust to was, learning to communicate and learning to, trust outside of, mom and dad.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think, even Coach Grant, he'll probably say that was probably tough for his job because, guys like Ben Tate, Kenny Irons, they communicate a lot. Their parents were, always in the offices, talking to the coaches.
Mm-hmm.
They were always in the office talking to the coach. I try to avoid that place as much as possible.
I guarantee you, and you know this as well, as a coach, I appreciate that because the reason I wanted to coach college football is so I didn't have to deal with parents because of high school,
Say that one more time.
I would say one of the reasons I wanted to coach college was because you don't have to deal with the parents as much as high school. But I found out in college you actually almost do.
It's worse. It's way worse. I mean, if you really look at the competition we had at running back those 5 years there, and I mean the 5 years I was there, and I started 4 of those 5 years. My parents they've came in there 2 times, and it was for something that needed to be talked about.
Yeah.
I had the suspension, and then when I had my daughter, that was the only 2 times that they stepped foot in that building and didn't let the coaches do their job. Outside of that, I mean, just let them be football coaches. But with the backs that we had there, let's just say it was a lot of parents in the building.
Yeah, it's I can imagine, and I've been a part of that, so I understand. Now, talking about coaches, I want to stick to coaches. Who was, and obviously you're probably gonna say your position coach, and that's fine. Who was your favorite coach on the staff outside of a coordinator or the head coach?
No, I wouldn't even say my position coach. I know that's gonna sound bad.
Oh, and some people I know a lot of people like that.
So, to be honest, it's crazy. Actually, our academic guy, our head academic guy, because they really kept me on track because my degree wasn't easy. And there was times that I changed majors after I had already planned. I had a plan, like I wanted to be exercise science major, do physical therapy afterwards. But the workload just became too much, and I remember changing my degree. My major, and I didn't tell them, and they saw my schedule, like, what are you doing? And basically they put me in a position to be able to be successful and do what I'm doing now. But I would probably say the academic staff in my second, not while I was there, but when I look back at it now and all the things that it's teaching me now, probably Coach Jocks.
Yeah.
Obviously no one liked him while we were there because he's our strength coach, and
you're not supposed to.
We gotta go see. It was fun. It's funny. He'll tell you. I used to get because I didn't go to class, and I know it's bad, but I'm one of those people that if there's 400 people in the room, I'm just gonna be looking around. I'm not gonna get anything what it's talking about. But if you give me my notes and go home, I can study all day.
Yeah.
But just how they had it set up at Auburn, if you didn't go to class, you got punishment workouts.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, okay, well, fine. I'm just getting an extra workout anyway. So, so he used to get frustrated. He's like, I'm supposed to be here punishing you at 4:30, and you were coming here just taking it as extra work. I'm like,
yeah, it goes totally against the what they're trying to get out of it.
Yep.
That's I've never heard somebody have that take on it. That actually probably made you perform better when you had to do it because nobody likes getting up at 4:30 and working.
It did, but when it's a game week and I got punishment workouts, my coach is looking at me like, hey, you don't let them work out.
Yeah, I was gonna say I know. I know they probably pulled back on you, but now kind of sticking in that same vein, Coach Tuberville. Just kind of talk to me about Coach Tuberville. What do you think about him, and just what kind of guy is he?
Probably the most straightforward guy you're gonna meet. I remember one time I can't remember what game it was, but I was hurt, and they were trying to see if I was gonna be able to play for that week. And he came into the training room. He's like, man, I'm spending all this money on you to be sitting here in the training room.
Yeah.
What he's like, this scholarship costs, X amount of dollars per semester, and you sitting here in the training room.
Yeah.
And I started laughing, and he looked at me. He's like, no, I'm serious.
Yeah.
I said, I can respect the honesty, but he's one of those guys that if something's going on, come talk to him.
Yeah.
If you're not doing what you're supposed to do, he's gonna come talk to you. He's gonna be straightforward and direct with you. Not every head coach is built that way.
Yeah, so he's a real one, is what you're telling me.
Oh yeah, no, without a doubt. So I think that's why it made it difficult, even for Auburn. I appreciate and love what Coach Malzahn is doing, but he's having to adjust.
Yeah.
And I just don't think that Auburn's been the same Auburn football, since those days.
Yeah, that's crazy you say that, because that actually bleeds right into my next question. And I don't want to cut you off if you want to expound
No,
on
go
that.
ahead.
But really kind of watching Auburn now, and you kind of look at the past records. There's obviously 2010 with Cam was an incredible year. Cam is Cam. 2013, I thought there was some very.
It was a lucky year.
It was a lucky year, and just put the safe punt return team out against Florida State right before halftime. I don't understand that. I'll never understand that as a special teams coach. I'll never understand that, and nobody can ever make me understand it. But really kind of looking at it to then and now, I almost feel like there's a culture change, because when I remember you guys playing, I knew at any point in time, if Auburn wanted to line up and get 3 yards running the ball, damn it, they could get it, Brad. Y'all could get it. I look at Auburn now, and I think it's up front, honestly, because that's what it all comes down to. But really, what do you see the same thing?
Well, it's funny when you say up front. I actually just told Tank, this was about 2 days ago, and he's talking about the line, and they're going to be young, and X, Y, and Z. I just kind of gave him an example. I said when I was a junior, after coming off the 5-game suspension, I had to play with 3 true freshmen. Our center was a walk-on, and I just think we had, I forgot the other lineman that we had, but we weren't experienced at all. Yeah. I said what it was. I said every day at practice when they messed up, I was that guy. And probably shouldn't say this, but I'm cussing them out.
I'm with you, dog. I was that guy too. I pushed
a couple. I'm like, hey, let's rerun that. You gotta hold everybody accountable.
Yeah. And
it creates like a coach, like you said, it's a different culture. So on game day, they're over and beyond used to everything that they're going to see. Everything, at practice when we go full speed, it's full speed. It's not a walkthrough.
Yeah.
And I still don't understand how a lot of teams practice 50% and then show up on game day and expect to go 100%.
It's amazing.
So, and that line was probably the least experienced line that we had at Auburn, but we were probably the most productive.
Yeah.
Just from the, how close we were and how we pushed each other.
Yeah. And again, that's a huge part. And that's something kind of behind the scenes that people don't see. But, and really, to be honest with you, Brad, I still, because that can happen on both sides of the ball, obviously, I still see that. And I don't want to call it passion, because I don't want to accuse guys of not playing hard.
Well, I don't think some of them click well. I think it's a me game. And
I agree.
Just make it about you. I mean, at the end of the day, you're not going to get what you need.
Yeah. Well, what worries me, Brad, is that football in general is starting to trend toward the personality of NBA players, and it's turning into a me.
You kind of have to, right? And I mean that's unfortunate. It's not the way to win championships. But you look at how they have it now. If a player's not doing well, or if he gets hurt, and let's say the coach has recruited this other guy. Next thing you know, you're out of your spot. If you want to transfer and go to another school, you got to sit for a year. Joey Gateway is a good example.
Yeah.
If a coach wants to up and leave, he doesn't have to sit.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's almost like the coaches aren't always going to look out for you, but when you look out for yourself, you're put in a situation where it's not good.
Yeah. Well, I've always too, and honestly, I've thought, and this is just my opinion, but if the head coach leaves, I feel like there should be a one-time transfer rule for everybody on the roster without penalty.
I think even if a coordinator leaves, you should have that option.
Down to the coordinator. I've heard that. Obviously, if you start going to position coach, that's going to get way too fuzzy. I think you could get away with the coordinators. I agree, because most of the time, it's funny, and I try to explain this to people. The head coach is involved in recruiting, but not nearly the amount that the assistants and most players commit to either a position coach or a coordinator.
Exactly. And that was probably, like I said, Coach Borges would have been one of the closest I was closest to. So when he left, there was no connection. So when the new coordinator came in and he wants to call a play and I don't like the play, I couldn't, not the knock against what he had going on, but we couldn't say 2 words about it.
There was,
so that already built a wall for me immediately. And I said, okay, well, fine.
Yeah, I mean,
when it doesn't work, don't look at me crazy.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. And again, I think it does go back to kind of what the trend now is in college football, and sticking with Auburn. And I want to kind of look forward to this 2020 season, really kind of before we get into Tank, because again, he's a guy that I'm really high on, and a lot of Auburn people are really high on. And I actually have a comparison for you I want your opinion on, because obviously you know better than anybody. But looking at Auburn in 2020 and the schedule, to me, obviously, you got to go on the road.
It's the easiest we've ever had.
Yeah, you do got to go to Bama and Georgia, but other than that, Auburn's got to win one of those. If Auburn handles business, in my opinion, outside of that and wins one of the two, Georgia and Bama, you're probably in the playoff.
I agree. I'm gonna tell you the biggest one is gonna be week 5. If you
I
can
agree.
go,
I'm right there with you.
if you go to Athens and win, which is gonna be different, they're not. I think we'll be more prepared for them than they will be for us because they're not used to playing us that early in the year.
And they're replacing it. They got a brand new quarterback, a transfer from Wake Forest, and they're replacing a lot of guys. So I think that is – I actually have Auburn winning that game by 3 right now. But, again, without an offensive line, Brad.
I got about 14.
Hey, look, Auburn fans, I'm sure – I hope you're right. So it's going to be a good one. And you know what's crazy, Brad, and I did this. I dropped this yesterday, these notes, and I think, as a football connoisseur like you are, this is going back to 2009, Brad, with Malzahn being the OC and the head coach. And when Auburn has a quarterback that rushes for 400 yards or more, they're 34-7 and 4-2 against Georgia and Bama. When they don't, they're 32-21 and 3-11 versus Georgia and Alabama. I've always been a proponent of, if you're going to run a zone read RPO offense, you got to have a quarterback that is a threat to run. I think Bo Nix is. He rushed for 313 yards last year. I think if he can literally rush for 15, 20, 30 more yards a game than he did and keep a few drives alive on third down, Auburn wins those close games.
I 100% agree.
I really do. And again, what do you think? Can you just explain to our viewers, because I've explained it, I just like it coming from other people, really what it does to a defense when the quarterback is actually a threat to run?
It slows them down. For me personally, I don't really adjust well to it as a running back because it throws off the zone read, because when you have a quarterback that's also reading, he kind of takes away your running lane. But for a defense and guys that actually like running the zone with the quarterback, I mean, it just puts them in a situation where they can't move. I mean, it's almost like they got to wait and see what's going to happen, especially the defensive ends. But if you don't have a guy that is a threat to run and you're trying to run that kind of offense, it's tough.
Yeah. And
on the offense.
Yeah, it is. I agree. And another thing, kind of sticking kind of schematically a little bit, really when I watched you guys offensively and I watch Auburn now, I thought a great thing that Brandon Cox did that made him successful was he wasn't afraid to throw the check down because he knew he wasn't a great scrambler. And as a running back, I'm sure you love getting the check down because it gives you a chance in space, but Auburn doesn't throw it anymore, and it's wide open.
It's funny. I used to always tell him, and he used to laugh because, like, we'll be in meetings, and I'm just the kind of guy that's like, to loosen everybody up, I'll make a joke.
Yeah.
Or like, and it may be a joke, but I'm actually being serious.
Yeah.
But the coaches will be going over things that if this happens or this goes wrong, check to this. I'm like, and I always say, hey, and if anything goes wrong, just give me the ball.
Yeah.
I said, just throw it to me or check 32 zone.
Yep. That's a true running back mindset.
We're walking on the field, and I was telling them, like, hey, just check 32 if you need anything.
I love it. What was your favorite play? What was your favorite play to run? If you could pick one play, inside zone or outside zone?
Yeah, 32 zone.
There, 32 zone. There you go.
There you go. Anything's wrong, just change it to that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now I do want to ask you about this. There's 2 plays really, and what one was yours, but another one you were there for. The Junior Rose Green hit in 2004 against Georgia. Was that the biggest hit you've ever seen?
It actually scared me because I thought the guy was dead.
I thought he was too. I was in the end zone, literally watching it, and I'm like, that dude may not get up.
Yeah, and it's and Reggie's a good guy, the guy that he hit, but it scared me, and the fact that the stadium is so loud, to the point where the fans chanted his name, and finally it woke him up. I was like, wow. I mean, that was amazing to me. That's what it took to get the guy to wake up. Is everybody screaming 100,000 people screaming his name.
Brad, they would throw Junior Rose Green in jail for that nowadays.
Yeah, yep. So some of the stuff you said after you hit him, I can't repeat, but yeah.
I love it. I love it. Hey, look, it's like I used to tell my guys, they signed the paper, man.
Exactly.
So, but at the end of the day, it's football. That's what it is. And now the second play, this one involves you. And you probably already know what I'm talking about, and it was in the Chick-fil-A bowl. When you ran through that Clemson dude like wet paper, and it was a little arrow route, kind of out of the backfield, and I guess he was either reading the back or the safety to the weak side, and he threw it down to you, and just kind of talk about just running through him like he's a ghost.
That actually is okay. So there's a story behind it. So that week of the bowl games, you got to do different events with the players, and you interact with them. I forget his name. Gosh, whatever that cornerback's name was, he just kept talking all week. All week, he just kept talking trash. And the only thing I told him, I said, "When I see you, I'll see you." And he did, like every event, like he just kept talking. Like, "I'll see you."
Yeah.
And so when I saw him in a one-on-one situation, it was like no hesitation.
Yeah, time slowed down, I'm sure.
He didn't come back in the rest of the game.
Yeah.
So
It was.
That's the funny part about it. And I said, "I told you, I'll see you."
Yeah, it was funny. I was actually watching that game. I was in Fort Collins, Colorado, watching it, and literally you ran through that dude, and to me that kind of sent a message for the rest of the game. I think plays like that, and and kind of talk about that, whether it be a big hit by the defense or a guy running over somebody on offense, especially early in the game, just kind of how that sets the tone for the game.
No, it does. And I try to tell guys that all the time, like, when you make a play, like get your teammates involved, like get it excited. Get your fans into it. And that's what really changes things.
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't come out and set a statement, especially when you're on the road, if you don't come out and set a statement, you're in trouble.
I agree 100%. Now I want to pivot toward a guy that Auburn fans are super excited about. And I think he's a guy that's going to win the starting job, or at least split carries with DJ Williams early, because how head coaches are and how Coach Malzahn is. He's going to, I guess, you're closer to the situation than me. I'm sure he probably told Tank, hey, we're going to turn around and give you the ball 20 times in recruiting. But now because I have a comparison. Number one, I just want you to kind of tell me about Cartavius Bigsby, the person, before the player.
You know what? You could tell his background and where he comes from. He's hungry.
Yeah,
that's one thing. I mean, from the moment that he walked in the building, when I first started working with him, I mean, he's always looking to work. He's always trying to. I had to cut the session. So, hey, we did enough, and I work pretty hard, and my guys work, but he's like wanting to do more and more and more. So he's just the person that, he comes from a situation where he wants to work, and he wants to make it to the NFL.
Yeah, that's a powerful hunger too, and most of the time that'll get guys there. Because I compare him, I watch his tape, and he looks like Dalvin Cook to me. That's who you're talking about.
No, it's crazy. He's bigger in person, because
that's crazy.
I would have thought the same. So when I saw him in person, I didn't realize he was 211 pounds and that he was right at 6 foot. I mean, he looks like Najee Harris, or kind of like even more like KJ.
Yeah,
KJ Johnson. I mean, they're built the same way. He's only 17. I didn't know that either. So he didn't even turn 18 yet. So I mean, you got to imagine by the time he's a junior in college, he's going to be 6'1", probably about 225 pounds, and he's fast.
Yeah. What separates him? I think it's his acceleration, because I watched one clip, and again, I'm sure you've seen this a million times from a personal standpoint of, I think they're running the power, and the end spilled it, and there was kind of that pile up like they're taught to. And he was able to squirt it out to the right side, and it was like they shot him out of a cannon, Brad. It looked like what it was supposed to look like.
Yep. The biggest thing that I've seen from him so far, and I wouldn't have known this until now, but his change of direction is phenomenal. Like, I have drills that I take running backs through when they first come in and start working with me, and he's probably done it the best out of all the running backs I've worked with. And I've worked with Chris Carson from the Seahawks, Alvin Kamara that's playing for the Saints, Peyton Barber. Those drills, he's flew right through and got him and understood him immediately, and looked the most fluent, most athletic.
Yeah. Well, now, what do you project him, Brad? Because I know you kind of see him, and I'm sure you've had talks with him. What do you kind of project his first year at Auburn being like, from a playing time standpoint and from a success standpoint? What would you consider a success his true freshman year?
Well, what I'm trying to catch him up at is, because now with everything going on, they don't get spring practice.
Yep.
They don't get summer practice. So trying to get him to learn pass protection.
Yes.
If he can do that, that's going to be huge. Outside of that, it's kind of, and I probably shouldn't say this, but I mean, they'd be crazy not to give him a chance to have the starting job.
Yeah, I look around that room, and again, I will never ask you to talk bad about a player, or especially on Auburn or stuff like that, but I look around that room without Tank Bigsby, and I think DJ Williams is a good back. I think he's a good back. I think he'd be a good 2. That's what I think he'd be.
No, I think he's, and that's what's going to make it tough. You got to look at this. Who won a national championship this year?
I mean, that is
LSU.
Yeah.
Now you look at the yards that LSU's given up against a running back. They didn't really give up any 100-yard games. DJ had 111, and we didn't give him the ball a lot that game. He only got the ball 12 times against LSU. So when you look at a situation like that, and look at the times that we've actually tried to be consistent with him, it's hard not to say, hey, this guy's going to be our starter. It kind of goes back.
Yeah. And he will. That's how it should be. I just, when I look at it, and there's certain examples, because again, look, you can never pick, and this is better than anybody. You can never pick really one play out of a game and say, hey, this cost us a game or it didn't. Sometimes more plays hold more weight than other. But I think about the LSU game, and I think about that long run he broke. And I know if it was Brad Lester, you're going to score.
Yeah.
I know. And Brad, that's not the only one.
I got mad. I got mad about that one.
Because again, when you play running back to Auburn, to me, and I'm gonna get your thoughts on this later. Playing running back at Auburn is an unbelievably prestigious thing to do when you look at the history of Auburn. Because when you think of Auburn, in my opinion, the first thing I think about is running backs and defense and running the ball. And I think about Cadillac against Syracuse when it was 4th and 2, and he gets hit in the backfield, balance touches with one hand, and fights his guts out to get 3 yards, and Auburn wins the game. Those are the plays. That's where I define a running back for Auburn. When it came down to it, when it was Ronnie Brown going up against Jason Allen to see who was going to get in that end zone against Tennessee, or it was Brad Lester against the Clemson corner that was running his damn mouth the whole time, I'm going to run through you like you stole something from me, and you could put Mount Rushmore in front of me, and I'm still going to score. I mean, I just feel like that's the mindset you have to have at Auburn to play running back, and you had that.
And I think that's a question mark if do we have that there now.
That's my point. That's what I think.
So,
and again, like I said, I'm not going to actually talk bad about anybody, but again, I think you have to be honest, because again, we can go on 35 different Auburn podcasts and it'd be orange and blue tinted glasses and how great is this, how great is that. But I think our audience likes the show because it's actual honesty. Where I'm not going to sit here,
right?
It's no bullshit. It's actual honesty. But moving on, even with sticking on Tank, do you think the style that Auburn runs, with him being able to catch the ball out of the backfield with Chad Morris coming in, do you think that's a big advantage for Tank, being able to catch the ball and be elusive out of the backfield?
That's a huge advantage. I'm telling you, it was times literally, if I saw that it was man-to-man coverage and I was in a route, I'll look at Brandon and Brandon will look at me and we'll know it's a win right away.
Yep.
So it got to a point where teams would like scheme and run like a zone/man, but they will make sure that no one was man-to-man on me. Mm-hmm. It's just because I could catch out of the backfield. When you get to that point, you cause a whole lot of confusion if you just got if you got a go-to receiver. Yeah. Now that guy is going to be, not as covered or not doubled because they have to worry about the running back.
Exactly. And shoot, most of the time you're going to be on a linebacker anyway, and you're going to win that one.
You should every time.
Every time, and that's what everybody says. So I want to ask you this question, because I try and tell our audience that football actually, it's very serious. But some of the funniest things that have ever happened to me in my life happened on either a practice field or in the facility. And I know there's some stories you can't tell, obviously. Those will go to the grave. But is there anything on the field, whether it be practice or something, that was just hilarious, that you just, one of those things where you tell that story, you know what I'm saying, when you're trying to make somebody laugh?
I tell you, me and Kenny Irons used to fight every day. So I had during all season workouts, I could run through any workout except for 110-meter sprint. Some reason, every time we ran 110s, I just couldn't finish through it.
Yep.
I remember one day it had to be 100 degrees in the summer, and I just couldn't run anymore. And we're in the middle of a rep, and he goes and starts grabbing me and pulling me. He's like, "Come on, let's go. Yep. These are easy." Like, put me, and we're in literally middle of the rep. We're sitting out there fighting.
It was funny. Yeah, go ahead.
And he was being being funny, but I was so serious at the time. And that was one situation. And then this was what game was that? Ole Miss. We played into Ole Miss, and we had control of the game, but it was 14-7, and he fumbled. And they almost got the ball back. Patrick Willis almost got the ball back, and our guys got on it. And he's walking off the field because Coach Grant tells me to go in. And I was like, dude, you fucking suck.
That's great.
Then I go in and score 2 plays later. They were like, we're on the silent laughing. I was like, no, bro, you suck. I should be starting.
I love it.
But it's just the competition part. I mean, obviously, he's a great running back. I mean, a better runner than I was at the time. But just stuff like that, it just kind of makes the situation, loose. I mean, you're out there having fun, and it's like a big brother, little brother situation.
It is. And it's funny. Those are the things you really kind of remember, too, when you get done with it. Now, what was the best defensive player you ever played against? I heard you say Patrick Willis a second
But
ago.
I'm gonna tell you, by far, that's probably the best player I played. So I remember when we played them, I scored 3 times. He had 17 tackles. I scored 3 times. So out of the times that I did not score, he made every single tackle.
He was unbelievable.
And
I
he had
remember
like
when he played with that club.
Yep, that was the game.
Wow. Wow.
That was the game. I mean, it was a nightmare. I was like, goodness, I was like, don't block anybody else but him.
Yeah, his film, if you actually watch his linebacker film, you talk about a guy that's just unbelievably instinctual. It's like he knew every play that was coming.
Exactly.
But now tell me this, Brad. This is kind of the last personal question I'll ask you. What is the one game or the one situation when you're at Auburn that you wish you could have back?
Not coming back for senior year. I'll say that for one.
Okay.
That'd be number one. And then plan was, I remember when we played LSU in 2007, and I remember we were going into score, and I told the coaches, it's like, hey, we need to slow down. And it's like, they're like, no, let's score now. It's like, if whoever has the ball last is going to win this game.
Yeah.
And I remember we scored, and I was like, man, we scored too fast. I think we gave them about 1:20 left, and they go right down the field, and they score as time expired.
Yeah, I remember that.
I told you, it's too much time.
God, it's tough.
That game actually puts us in the national championship run.
Yeah, it does. That's exactly. I don't think people remember that really.
Mm-hmm. That was a tough one.
Yeah.
That was a tough one. So because that changed the rest of the year, and then LSU won the national championship that year.
That's right. God, I remember that. It's been so much time, but I do remember that. Now, last question, Brad. I want to ask you, man. What does Auburn mean to you?
It's like family, because every time I go there and especially even now, all the players that are in the area, that I even still communicate with or that I knew before I got there, I'm like Derek Brown, Darius Slayton, Kyle Davis, all these guys, Peyton Barber, Carl Lawson. Actually, my dad used to coach him all throughout his youth. Yep, he played youth ball at Parkview before he moved to Milton. But just knowing these guys before they even get to Auburn, it's like once they get there and sign there, now you're really like family.
Yeah. Well,
I think that's the biggest thing.
Well, Brad, I know you got a lot going on. You can drop your Twitter handle if you want people to follow you, man. But I really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule, and I'd love to have you on shoot multiple times before the season if you're down, brother.
Let's do it. Yeah, my Twitter name is @BradLester1.
Easy. All right, man. Well, Brad, again, dude, thanks. I really appreciate what you did for Auburn and watching you play, and we'll have you back. This has been the Jboy Show with Jboy and Brad Lester, and Jboy is out.